And recording.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and any 8th-dimensional creatures watching from beyond our mortal ken. And welcome to Installation-00, Session 3. Here with us today we have Alf.
Hi.
The Boss Man. The Boss Man.
Yeet.
Ra.
Hello.
Sarge.
Hello.
Super Mushu.
Greetings.
Slacker.
Hello.
And Strider.
For Olympia!
Yes. And without further ado, we begin. Where we last left our heroes, the Shadow of Intent was about to exit slipspace and arrive at its destination. We rejoin our band of merry men as they are continuing to wait on a lich dropship for the Shadow to exit slipspace, as all around them, more than 40,000 warriors of the Fleet of Retribution begin to take up arms.
Define merry.
No.
There's nothing merry about Mike right now.
Mike.
Yes.
Partway through waiting for things to get started, you receive a visitor. That same elite in white armor that you'd been talking to a few times during the 11-day wait.
Ah, the armorer.
Yes, the weapons master. He trudges up onto your dropship, sees you amongst the crew as you're sitting on the floor near to one wall, and he sort of stomps over to you, and he's holding these two objects that you've not quite seen before.
Oh, yay. Okay. How's it going?
The elite doesn't respond immediately, but he hands you two things.
Alright, I'll take them.
First is this,
The fuck is that?
and the other is this.
Oh god, there's so many comments I could make about the appearance of that, and as it relates to things that he would know, but never mind.
Yes.
Yes.
The white armored elite sort of... It's as though he doesn't quite know what to say, but he just sort of says, I was ordered to make sure you were ready. So, here is this.
Yeah, alright, what do they do?
The first is a helmet, and the other is a bag for ammunition.
Works for me. I'm gonna put on the helmet and see what I got.
As you do, the white armored elite immediately turns around and walks off the lich, and you don't know where he's going. As you put on the helmet, it's sort of weirdly shaped. You kind of have to adjust it a little bit to make it sit comfortably on your head, and you can already tell it's just not designed to be worn by humans, but it'll work, really.
Yeah, a lot of things weren't designed. Yeah.
The smell inside of this thing, it's like every type of cleaning product you can think of. Like chlorine and detergent mixed together.
Yay.
And you don't want to think about why, potentially, it had to be cleaned that much, but...
Oh, I can figure it out for myself.
As you're sort of looking through the helmet, it's like a green fishbowl, but when you put it on, you realize, oh, wait, it's actually rather clear and not tinted green. This works.
Alright. Well, got a helmet. Looks like there's a breathing apparatus on the front, but it doesn't fit my head, so the breathing apparatus is pretty much fucking useless. Bag full of ammo, helmet. Okay.
Yes, as your hand sort of picks up your concussion rifle and you stand up and test how aiming is going to work with this helmet on. The helmet's... You see these things pop into your vision, and at first you're freaked out, like, what the hell? It's like these two lines appear right in the center of your vision. But then you realize, oh, wait, that's where my gun is aiming. Oh. And you realize in the top right corner of your, apparently a heads-up display, you've never had one of those before, is the number of shells. Or is it rounds, or is it bolts? You don't know the term, but the number of shots your concussion rifle currently has in it.
Yay. I wish that one more of the Pelican was around that didn't get me my fucking Swiss Army knife.
Yes, it's quite unfortunate. As you look at the other object, what the guy, the elite, said was a bag, you have to fiddle a bit to get it to open, but inside you find a lot of these, which you recognize to be the cartridges of your concussion rifle, and there's at least 15 of them in this bag.
Oh good, I'll have plenty of ammo when I die. Nice.
Quite. In any case, you're all waiting on the Schlitch, and not much is going on, honestly. Outside, you see a lot of people milling about around other vessels and vehicles. Eventually, Hunter and Alf, you are approached by one who looks a bit like this. It is an elite in this bronze reddish armor, and he walks up to you, Alf, and he asks, "Are you the leader of your fire team?"
No. That.
Go on.
Did I cut out?
Yeah, you did.
So no, that would be him, and points towards Hunter.
Hunter looks up from running maintenance on his assault rifle. What do you need?
The elite turns to you, Hunter. He seems to blink a bit. You see his mandibles sort of twitch around, and you don't know what that means, but you assume he's just surprised at how short you are.
Hunter is now thinking in his head, I could fucking take you. He doesn't say this out loud. He says it in his head. He just thinks, I could fucking take you right here, right now. And says to him, what do you want?
The elite presses a hand to his chest plate and says, I will be the leader of Combat Team 2.
Well, good to hear. I already have a plan in mind, and I was gonna look for you either way. I put my assault rifle on my back, and I offer a hand.
The elite looks at your hand curiously for a moment. His head sort of tilts to one side, and he eventually reaches a hand forward. And grabbing your hand, he grabs about the midpoint of your wrist.
Yeah, that'll work. He'll do the same with the elite and just give his best friendly handshake, as friendly as he can manage without seeming awkward.
The elite didn't seem prepared for you to shake your hand up and down. As far as you can surmise, the handshakes among the Covenant are just grasping the other's forearm, apparently.
I will say to him in a tired voice, it's a human meeting.
I see. You said you had a plan.
Correct.
Were you given intel more than More than I? Did the fleet master give you information?
I came up with it when I heard we were entering slip space for if and when we have to board.
Bored? Oh. We do not where precisely the obstinate broodmare is, and so I have been told that when the Shadow of Intent exits slip space, we will wait for information on our quarry's most probable location. Once told where it is, our pilot has been ordered to fly there with all haste.
Of course. I came up with this to be prepared.
The elite he nods a bit more respectfully than you expected him to. And he says, this lich is equipped with an active camouflage generator. We want the fleet master wanted us to be prepared for whatever we might encounter.
Naturally. I noticed you had Milikolo among your fire team. That's not right.
Yes, Umgalagolo, the two... What were their names again? The elite he looks up to the left in a manner that you find entirely too human. In confusion. And he thinks to himself, ah yes, Virone and Vasag, those two, yes. I have worked with many of them. It's hard to remember names.
Naturally.
Ah, I realize my rudeness. I forgot to introduce myself. I am Girvon Umdamai, Greater Chosen.
Good to be met.
Likewise, and your name, demon?
He sort of this is like out of instinct, he stands at a attention like he's addressing a superior officer in the UNSC and says, Jason, G226, codename Hunter.
The elite blinks, but has no other reaction, really. And he finally he nods, again, respectfully, as far as you can tell, and says, when the mission begins, you may want to contact, what was the Ungoy's name again? Zibiz, this Lich's weapons officer, if you need heavy fire support or anti-armor capability.
Hunter is silent for a minute, blinks behind his helmet, simply says, "A grunt is our heavy weapons operative."
He is, how you humans say, Ranger Ungoy.
Makes sense, I suppose.
In any case, he will be aboard this Lich along with the pilot manning the vessel's weapons.
Understood.
Naturally, I am of the mind that only if neither combat team can accomplish something should the rest of the Lich's crew get involved.
Of course.
And this elite reaches behind his back and takes out an object. It appears to be shaped like a disc. It's flat, and a good portion of it is entirely holographic. He holds it up, and he says, hang on, what would he refer to it as? The elite actually, he pauses and realizes he doesn't quite know what he's doing here, and he looks at you and says, are you already linked into the BattleNet?
He kind of his head tilts slightly down, turns to Alf, and gives Alf a look that says, "Did we do that?"
As far as you're aware, Alf, you did not.
I shrug.
Hunter turns back to the elite, takes a deep breath, stands at a respectful attention, because this is technically a superior officer, and then shrugs.
You're not actually sure if he's technically superior to you, per se. The chain of command among the Covenant is a bloody mystery to you, but...
He doesn't. Fucking aliens.
Yeah. The Girvon sort of... He blinks to himself and eventually nods and taps on his data disk a bunch and says, I shall attempt to link you to our battle network for the purposes of this mission.
This would be appreciated.
I am gonna look for the ODST.
He's sitting right next to you.
Sweet.
Slacker.
Kevin wakes up and is like, "Oh no, I didn't fall asleep. What was going on?"
Yeah. I really want to pass out myself. Well, we're fucked either way, so, might as well be as unfucked as possible. So, here's some questions that I haven't gotten to ask yet, if you got a couple of minutes.
Shoot.
Alright, so the, little one with the anger issues and the big one that's real quiet, what are they?
Spartans.
And what is a Spartan?
Super soldier.
Human?
Yes.
Sounds
Although
legit.
debatable.
Yeah, debatable.
Formally.
Yeah, that works. The walking, talking encyclopedia of motivational quotes that I would have thrown away in the dumpster about 15 years ago. Well, I've been in a cryo 15 years ago, never mind. What is that?
You don't know, Kevin.
Target.
Also, that motivational poster is over a century old.
Okay.
Target for later.
Okay, the out-of-date motivational poster.
Target for later.
Well, that's always fun. Alright. Well, a little bit about me, just so you know, right out of the gate. I'm an engineer, but I'm more theoretical than practical. I know how to repair shit, but most of my work was spent doing advanced R&D. So, I don't know why I was sent on this, but, either one or two things. Either the people that put this mission together are completely fucking stupid, or there's going to be something in there that's right up my alley, around from the time that, apparently isn't outdated to the point where it's just silly.
R&D on what specifically, if I may ask?
Oh, he's actually asking that? He's there?
I mean, you can consider this an out-of-character question, I suppose.
Out of character? He designed the mineral polymer mesh that Spartans use inside their suits.
The strength-multiplying fractal crystal layer.
Yes.
And in character, he says that's classified.
At least a prototype of it, I would guess.
Mhm.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Kevin kind of rubs his head, but forgets that there's a helmet there, and just says, "Alright, what have they told you?"
Honestly, if you really want to know, nothing. The last thing that I remember before waking up on board that big-ass ship was getting shot at by, another ship, and I didn't even see what was inside of it. So, pretty much, anything that's happened, past the first shot of what I'm beginning to understand is the Covenant's war with us is, pretty much alien to me. And yes, pun intended, and I just gesture around at everything and everyone in the ship.
Kevin just says, "Fuck." Alright. Summary. Reach was destroyed. Earth is cut off. We can't get any reinforcements in or out.
Yeah, Mike. When he says that Reach is destroyed, that's a big bloody deal. Because Reach is a fortress world that more fortified than Earth, actually, which is saying a lot. And the fact that it was destroyed, you notice he doesn't say that it was conquered. He doesn't say that it was, that it's contested ground. He said destroyed. And that, to put it in context, in the real world, hearing that Reach was destroyed is like hearing that Fort Knox was demolished.
Yeah, just... Help. Wow.
To put it in context you can understand as a 40k person, it's pretty much like
Cadia.
the War of Armageddon.
It's pretty much the destruction of Cadia, for the most part.
No, Armageddon because they did weapon maintenance there, right? Weapon construction.
It was a capital world. It had a lot of civilians and cities on it. It had massive industry, and
It was also the home base to train Spartans.
Yeah. It was the planet for any kind of military.
it was practically the first planet humanity ever colonized, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
One of the first few dozen, I think.
And by the way, even if he was shown the stuff that's inside the Spartan suit, he wouldn't be able to identify it as something that he helped develop, because he never got to that stage of development with it.
Yeah, you more or less worked on more of the prototype, proof of concept phase inventions.
Yeah. Like, if it got explained to him, he'd be like, oh, well, I understand the fuck that is. I used to work on something that led to the development of that. But he wouldn't be like, oh, well, that's what this does. And he can't MacGyver the shit, and he can't Star Trek engineer the shit. He just helped develop it.
He has the basic understanding of the concepts. You try to get into specifics, and it's just like, I have no fucking idea.
No, he has more than a basic understanding of, like, advanced R&D, especially when it relates to that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it'd be like if you were to, give Thomas Edison an LED light. He knows, like, what he invented led to this, but at the same time, he'd be sitting there like, where the fuck did they add in all this other shit from? And, okay, I understand the basics of it, but, I understand that it could have led up to this, but this is not my bag.
He's missing steps to the process.
Bingo.
Steps 1 to 99.
No, he's got step 1. He's just missing like 30 to 99.
In any case, where does your conversation go next, Mike and Kevin?
Okay, so, Reach is gone.
Yep.
Earth is surrounded. 99.9% of the population of humanity is wiped out.
Not 99. Not 99. More 60, I want to say.
Well, that's...
No, actually. You would be very well acquainted, Kevin. Humanity had a population in the trillions and now has a population of a few hundred million.
He's saying 60 more to keep himself morale up.
I recognize that haunted look anywhere. Well, what about the cows? Did they kill the cows?
I think the cows are still alive because they're not a valued target.
Oh, sweet. I want to kill one of them. Bacon cheeseburger sounds fucking awesome right about now. Oh, God. Okay, so we're either completely fucked or we're not. I'll figure that out once we get on the ground. So, we got 2 super soldiers, a whole bunch of aliens, and... yeah, that's pretty much it, right?
More or less.
Well, sounds good. Sounds good. By the way, I don't know if I ever introduced myself. I'm Mike. This is strange, but yeah, what else isn't strange this day?
I am Kevin Mitchells. I will be your medic.
Well, yeah, good. Somebody to keep me from dying. That's always preferable.
Preferably, you will not be dying.
I appreciate that.
In any case, as you're all waiting aboard the Lich, Hunter and Alf, you and Girvon managed to sort of get your suits onboard computers to link up to the Covenant BattleNet, or at least the BattleNet connected to this Lich in particular. And as you're all... And the Girvon says to you, Hunter, he sort of... As this one particular grunt is walking past the pair of you, he sort of gestures to the grunt and says to you, Hunter, "This is Zibiz. He is the weapons officer that you may contact mid-mission."
Hunter will kneel down, get eye to eye level with the grunt, look him in the eye and say, "Can I rely on you for heavy support if need be?"
The grunt, he doesn't flinch, to his credit, at all. He actually... He stares back at you, and he appears to shrug, although it takes you more than half a second to figure out that it was a shrug, because both of his maraca-shaped arms sort of rose up a bit, and he says to you, "Well, that's my job."
Can I rely on you to know the ins and outs of your weapons?
I've been doing it for like 13 of your years, I think.
Okay. We're good then. He gets back up and gives the grunt. I'm going to assume Hunter has like seen elites doing the salute to each other.
Yeah, it's been 11 days on this ship. You've seen them, press their feet together and slam a fist to their chests.
Yeah, he's just gonna do that, just with a hard clank against his armor. Give him a...
The grunt sort of taps his own fist against his chest plate twice and walks off to wherever he was going to.
So, two things. Firstly, this would be a very neat point for Ashram to butt in. And secondly, I wanted to ask, since the Spartans are linked into the BattleNet, how do all of the other player characters register? So when the ID is pulled up automatically, say Ashram walks up, what extra information does the heads-up display show?
Those of you who are Zapata, Arsharam, and Reika are already linked in. As for Mike and Kevin, well, Girvon only thought to speak to the leaders of the other fire team, so... And I'm not sure what you mean by X-ray, Mushu.
Not X-ray, but so a big staple of these BattleNet systems is when you look at someone, like a friendly, it'll highlight them and pull up some information.
Ah, yes. That.
Or basic readout of health and how they're doing.
Yeah, so I was wondering if what do the Spartans see from their BattleNet uplink?
Well, given that Chief and Cortana linked to the Covenant BattleNet, nothing in particular, actually. Alf and Hunter, your HUDs, they don't seem to change at first. You have to mentally sort of check to see if anything's changed, and when you do that, small, roughly diamond-shaped symbols appear just above the heads of all of the Lich crew.
I want to bring something up.
Hmm?
Shouldn't Mike's headset already be attuned to the BattleNet since it's elite given?
Ah, yes. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, it is, actually. Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't think of that sooner. Yes, it is. It is linked to the BattleNet. There you go.
Little things are often overlooked.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, in any case, you're all aboard the Lich, sort of waiting around, when the time is nearing. And... Sorry, was someone going to talk just there?
No, that was me turning off my mic.
Ah, right, okay. So you're all milling about, and as the 3-hour waiting period comes to an end, all of you feel a subtle thump in all of your chests, and
You will recognize this as the feeling one gets when a ship exits slipspace. For a solid minute, none of you hear or see anything in particular. But then you hear shouting, distant and close from outside of your lich, and as you all look out either of the bay doors, you see hordes of soldiers sprinting towards ships and strike craft, 1,000 raised voices all blending together outside your craft as the entirety of the Shadow of Intent seems to be whipped up into a frenzy. But as the minutes drag on, of people mustering to their stations, your lich and your crew are all calm and don't do anything in particular.
Kevin polarizes his helmet so nobody can see his face.
Arsham will move to join the largest group he can find of his fellows, with a preference for Mike and Kevin.
Hunter is going to meet up with the leader of the second combat team, and tell him to get his team together. And
You do that, and you actually find Girvon sort of fiddling with a plasma rifle. No, not a rifle, plasma repeater that he didn't have before. And you see the hilt of an energy sword on his right thigh armor. And as you say that, he sort of just nods and gestures to a group of aliens that you had seen before, but now you realize that this is the second fire team. The 2 hunters, 6 more Sangheili, all of varying ranks, and 2 grunts.
Okay. Factor everybody in. And tell him that as soon as the Lich takes off, he will... Well, once we discover the ship we're after, and once we get confirmation, he will call the other fire team in for a briefing of the plan he came up with alongside his. And with that, he will go to assemble his own team.
Actually, before that, Girvon he raises a hand and sort of cuts you off and says, I have been ordered to await any information before a briefing can be held. The fleet master has instructions from the shipmaster himself to relay to me any crucial information.
Understood.
Mm.
He goes, gets his team ready.
While you were talking to Girvon, Arsharam, what were you planning to do?
He's going to head over to the 2 non-demon humans, mainly because he finally spies an opportunity to talk to them outside of combat, and he is extremely curious about them. So he's simply going to walk up to the humans and say, Greetings, humans. Tell me, do you fear death?
You must be a banger at parties.
Kevin just kind of shrugs and says, it's around that time, but you just don't care.
Mike?
He looked up at you and said, you must be a banger at parties. Well, what do you mean, do we fear death? I mean, that's a relative thing. That depends on the person, doesn't it? Like, as of about a week and a half ago, I thought I was dead.
Well, Ashram is going to tactlessly just keep going as if nobody had said anything. So, you shouldn't be, of course. Know that whether we live or die here today, we will live or die doing a great service to the galaxy.
Okay. What is he? Just what is he?
Let me grab the picture again.
It's like,
Are you going to ask me that?
No, like I just don't like. You got to remember, Mike has never seen an alien, and it's just weird. He doesn't even know what the hell you are.
An alien that is now basically speaking in ridiculous IQ or something to him.
There you go. That's the picture that we
It's like
used.
seriously, like this, like I was thinking about the way that your character looks versus the way he talks, and the contrast in ideal versus reality is so bizarre to him. Because you look like you'd be over there trying to uppercut someone to the moon, but you're talking all this optimism. It'd be like Mike Tyson sitting there giving motivational speeches.
Like Muhammad Ali. Just being like, don't worry, kid, you're beautiful on the inside.
You've got it backwards. Prelates aren't chosen for outright skill as much as they are for unquestioning loyalty. So, it was because he gave speeches that he was augmented.
Like seriously, like the way that picture looks versus the way your character talks. I'm gonna blow up the picture real quick so everybody can see it, like what I'm talking about. Like, it doesn't open up that much further. This character looks like he'd be planning your funeral and picking out the roses for it and all this other kind of stuff before he even met you. But he comes up to you and he's so polite. It's kind of like Mike Tyson coming up to you and being like, "Hey, look, you're doing really well. I really do appreciate everything that you're trying to do." It's like, what the fuck is this thing? This is it's like, what am I? It's like, what? It's like this thing is the thing that haunted my nightmares when I was a child, and here it is giving me a pep talk. I don't know how to respond to this.
Yes, Al-Shalam, as far as you can. It actually strikes you how easy it is to read the emotions on Mike's face as, yeah, the confusion and conflicted emotions are very evident.
Arsham obviously realizes he has caused the humans some distress, so the natural thing to do is apologize and say, "I am deeply sorry for any offense I have given. Please enlighten me as to your human customs. How do you seek purpose before battle? How do you defeat your fear of death?"
You didn't offend me. I just don't know what to make of you, to be honest with you. I've never met anybody like you before, and there's a human saying, its appearances can be deceiving. Well, in my book, appearances are very deceiving when it comes to you because you look a certain way, but the way you interact with us is completely different. So you haven't offended me at all.
And at this, Arsham is actually going to drop the politeness for a second and become dead serious. Think not that that is a falsity, human. I am as you see me, a weapon cast in the image of the gods. I have killed hundreds, perhaps thousands in my time. I lived that life as best I could, but when its pillars came tumbling down, I did not stand and watch them fall. Instead, I turned and walked away.
Now, considering he just got serious when he said that, I'm just going to look at him and be like, it's strange. I like you more than I like that one. I'm going to point at Hunter when I say it. I now like you more than I like him.
When you point to Hunter, the three of you turn and look at Hunter talking to Girvon, the elite, on the other end of the ship.
His back is to you.
Yeah, you make more sense to me than he does. So, yeah, there's another human statement. If you're going to walk the walk, talk the talk, there you go. I'm alright with you. And as far as your other question, how do you prepare for death? Well, it's going to happen whether you want it to or not. So, best to just get on with it.
Archaran, that reminds you very subtly of the ascetic priests that were aboard the High Charity studying the Dreadnought. A little bit, at least, in essence.
I do believe I have a quote for that, but I will refrain for now. You already have it anyway.
As this conversation comes to an end, Hunter, this is about the time that you walk up to your fire team, and what do?
Fire Team Dervish, at attention.
But hearing that, Rico will kind of stand up, having been in a somewhat meditative state, just kind of messing with his plasma rifle, kind of like checking all of its stuff, making sure it's all full power. But he gets up, hooks it on his hip, and is ready to pay attention.
Kevin stands up, checks his SMG, and puts it back.
Zapata doesn't do much. He just moves his head slightly to look at him.
And Arsharam asks, does checking a weapon you already know works help you in any meaningful fashion? Or is this another of your human customs?
Jackass! Sorry about that.
Human custom.
Oh, I got some back. Thank you. I'm gonna lean close to Asheram. How tall is Asheram, by the way?
9 foot.
I'm gonna lean close to him and just kind of mutter, "It's a comfort thing."
Today's the day we've been looking forward to, people. I say that with grim content. I will be entirely honest. I do not believe this operation will work. Currently, as far as we are aware, truth is on the precipice of victory. I believe he'd sooner rather sacrifice 1 million of his own if it means he can hit the rings. However, this is our silver bullet. So we have to get this done, no matter what. So it goes without saying that when we get out there, watch each other's backs. Because if you go down, do not expect me, Alf, or the medic to drag back a body.
Kevin just mutters, "Don't tell me what to fucking do."
He kind of his eyes kind of glance at Kevin for a second. Off of him, because a Spartan ODST thing, he gets over it. And simply asks, "Am I understood?"
Kevin just nods his head and doesn't say shit.
You're understood, demon. But know that none of us here are exactly green recruits or whiny grunts fresh off the food nipple.
Kevin just pats Mag's shoulder.
For that matter, Reiko, actually, you have no idea if you're meant to be this demon's subordinate, or if you're just attached to this combat team. You weren't exactly told. All you know is that you're their liaison, and liaison is not really a term that the Covenant use very often, so you're not quite clear.
Rico will make sure he pays attention more to the Covenant units and interact with the humans as need be to make sure, and do his damnedest to make sure everyone comes back alive, if at all possible, and back lightly injured at the very worst.
Okay, so I'm just gonna look at Hunter when I'm saying this. Okay, so out of everyone here, I think I'm the only one that has never been in a live fire combat. So that being said, where am I in this?
Don't worry.
Preferably
I factored
behind
you
them.
I believe you're tech support, Mike. You will be in the back as we take care of the threat, and you will touch certain shiny things that we tell you is okay to touch.
That works for me.
And don't worry, you'll be with our tall friend, and I point to Asheram as I say that.
As you're all speaking at this point, you notice humming of engines and the thrum of what the non-humans among you recognize to be anti-gravity boosters, as outside the bay doors of the Lich, you see ships all around the hangar starting to take off and fly out. First, hundreds of strike craft like Banshees and Seraphs launching, hundreds of them over the course of minutes. The crew of your Lich, meanwhile, doesn't seem to move or change. They are waiting for more orders and information.
This is the most insufferable part about any of these missions, is the waiting.
I fucking hate the waiting.
Well done.
Meh.
Zapata grunts and just says, "Hates waiting."
You me both, big guy.
Hunter just looks at Alf with a look that says, "It's like I'm in a fucking family road trip."
Can anyone see your face? Are you wearing your helmet?
I always have my helmet on.
And the faceplate is polarized, is it not?
Yes, no one can see my face. My helmet stays on, and if it comes off, it better be because I'm fucking dead.
So,
Do not worry, my friend. No one can see my face either.
Lovely.
That's probably a good thing.
By this point, you notice dropships all around starting to lift off and launch. Phantoms, spirits, carrying legions of wraiths, ghosts, and revenants. They're all starting to lift off and fly out of this gargantuan hangar bay. You are stuck waiting a while longer, unfortunately, as 15 minutes have passed by this point. And you start to notice the crew of this Lich checking their weapons, as well as the mounted plasma turrets situated at each of the bay doors.
It begins.
Hey, tall guy, what's your name again? Asherum?
Indeed.
Another human statement for you. Hurry up and wait. That's about what we're doing right now.
A fitting aphorism. It encompasses the duality of war well.
I'm gonna lean over to Kevin. I'm beginning to like this guy, don't know why.
I like him better than the Spartans.
Yeah, speaking of which, why are you so angry towards those two guys?
Complicated.
Ah. Mike's gonna think about that for about 2 seconds, and his face is gonna get really, really twisted, and he's gonna start shaking his head and grinning to himself.
Any being that deserves the appellation of demon would probably best not be interested in social interaction.
I mean, to be fair, I think the humans saw much of our kind as evil demon creatures by the sheer brutality that we showed during the opening years of the war.
Humans have done worse to each other than you have done.
I believe that.
It does not matter what we did, only what we will do. Who I was should not be who we will be. We
That
must
is-
be better.
That is the first statement out of your mouth that I agree with.
Kevin agrees with the statement.
You see, I told you there's a reason I like this guy.
As you are... Sorry, is someone trying to speak?
Nah, I just hit the button by accident.
Yeah, of course. As you're all speaking, it's about as 23 minutes have passed. As you're looking out at the hangar, it's now completely deserted, which is mind-boggling, because just 20 minutes ago, it was chock full of thousands, tens of thousands of people and hundreds of vehicles about the size of small buildings, and now it's mostly empty.
Kevin agrees. This is not a good sign.
As far as you can surmise, the battle has begun, but you're not there to see it at the moment. And as 24 minutes are about to pass, abruptly, the bay doors on either side of the Lich begin to shutter closed, and all of you feel a hum, a vibration shudder throughout the vessel. You all feel a subtle vertigo as the Lich begins to activate its drives and lift off.
Kevin just turns to Mike and says, "Once more into hell."
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You know what that's referencing, Mike, because the motto of the ODSTs has been feet first into hell for like hundreds of years.
Yeah, it sounds about right in this. Once more unto getting myself a bacon cheeseburger. I like that statement better.
As the Lich is lifting off, if you look in the insert materials channel, this is the interior of it, roughly. As the Lich is moving, do you see the circular indent in that wall, center of the image there?
Yes.
Affirmative.
Yep.
Yeah.
As the Lich is beginning to move, you see a light glow from the center of that hole, and a large hologram practically fills the space that you see here. This is the middle of the ship. There's a gantry between the lower and upper floor that you can look down through. And a grunt happens to be standing in the middle of this space, and as the hologram activates, he shrieks a bit and sort of throws himself to one side, out of the way. And when the hologram shows up, flickers into existence, you will see this. If I can find... Did I not put these in this folder? Damn it, okay, hang on.
No, Archo, you cannot fuck it. It is a hologram.
No.
Where the hell did I... There it is. There's the image. The Lich is moving. None of you see any windows or any way to tell how fast you're moving or where you're going, but as this hologram activates and fills the interior of the space, you see something that looks like this.
This is undoubtedly the Ark.
The Holy Ark.
The humans among you, you've been hearing the term the Ark over and over and over again for the past week and a half, and you had no basis for understanding what that meant, but as you look upon this, you realize, oh damn, this must be it. It is unthinkably large, just mind-bogglingly massive. This thing has to be larger than anything that any of you have ever seen in your lives. The sheer... In particular, Mike, you damn near begin to have an aneurysm at the thought of the scope of this thing, the resources and the type of engineering it must have taken to build this. You estimate it's at least 100,000 kilometers wide from tip to tip.
Kevin mutters, "That thing looks like a swallow Earth."
Yeah, good.
For the record, that mass in the center is only a bit smaller than Earth is.
Oh my god.
Zapata just walks closer to the projection and just stares down at it before turning back and looking at the group. Massive.
That's putting it mildly, buddy. This thing looks like it's a giant habitat as well as a maker of rings.
Habitat.
I don't like.
How does our...
Fight imminent.
This is nothing less than the most holy location in the universe. It is where the gods last walked before the great journey. It is where the great rings were made and sent forth on their mission. And it is where the truth of this war will be found, one way or another.
Kevin just says to Mike, the rings are super weapons meant to destroy all life.
Think you that the gods made them to do only one thing?
Possibly.
Super weapons. Got it. What the hell is that?
The Ark is what made the rings. If
It is the ring forger.
Yes, those of you who are not human, you've heard of scholars and theologians and political pundits throughout Covenant history talk about the fabled Ark, this thing that so far up until this point has only existed in abstract. It's only been an idea that sort of served as a beacon for the Covenant. But as you're looking upon it now, even then, all of that conjecture and all of that proselytizing does not do the sight of this justice.
I imagine.
For what it's worth, Ashram turns around and avoids looking at the projection because he fears he's too impure to survive long exposure.
As you're all looking at this image, you actually notice that the crew of the rest of the Lich is also staring at it now. And you all notice a small blue circle indication slowly moving across the image down toward the surface of this megastructure. And you see a lot more indicators further away from the structure than the blue dot, which you surmise to be a representation of the craft you're in. And there's at least 70. There's at least 70 dots and indicators, triangles, rectangles, above the surface of this structure, all of varying sizes. And those of you who have seen projections like this on various Covenant ships know those to be indicators of vessels. You see the fleet of Retribution, the 21 ships of it, arrayed against the 63 vessels, about a few 100,000 kilometers distant. And as you're all looking at this, you see tiny red dots begin to emerge and fly from the ships of both fleets. Those of you who have worked on Covenant vessels before know them to be plasma torpedo indicators. The battle for Installation-00 begins now.
The human crew would understand bits and pieces of it, right? Because
it's not too different.
Yeah, the human crew, you can guess more or less what's going on, yeah.
Judging by the facility with which the Sanghili blockaded High Charity and the no doubt ad hoc nature of the enemy, even this 3-to-1 disadvantage is not as unbeatable as it may initially seem.
Do you say that out loud?
Yes.
One of the Girvan, actually, the elite with bronze red armor, hears you say that from across the room and calls out offhandedly, "The shipmaster agrees with you."
Rico chuckles at this.
And at this point, I'll be right back. I'll be 2 minutes. Need to go to the bathroom real quick.
Small break.
Ravel.
Rabble.
Ravel.
Rabble.
Ravel.
Rabble.
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 Ravel.
Rabble.
Ravel.
Rabble.
Rada, rada,
Rabble.
rada, 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 rada.
I fucking can't do this.
Ravel.
And
Rock.
now, the toilet's here. You
not
got to
again.
drop a mega deuce now. My friend, is your TP near? 'Cause if it's not, you will be dancing.
Nice.
You've
Where'd it go?
eaten enough fiber to fill an entire granary on the highway. But what's more, when you squeeze it out, make sure it's your way.
For fuck's sakes, boss.
Oh, yes, there's been times, more than a few, when Chipotle has been all you could do.
You better not pause the recording. You better keep the recording going. This better be in the fucking video when I watch it.
Oh, my cheeks. My
This
cheeks
better
hurt.
be in the goddamn video. I want this to be in the
This turd is on fire!
Mike loses habits.
This turd is on fire!
Oh, my cheeks hurt.
Okay, I'm back.
Boss, you better keep this in the fucking video.
Ah, you're all in big trouble.
In any case,
Everything coming out all right?
we are moving on now. As this continues for another 3 minutes, as you see this blue dot on the projection slowly flying down toward the structure, the speed at which it's moving seems about right for how big this is.
And as it continues, you will see Gurvon, the elite in bronze armor. He appears to be holding a hand to his helm, listening to something. And as he continues to do so, he eventually steps up near to the projector from which the hologram is being spewed, and the image changes. When it does, you will see this. If I can select only one object at once, thanks. You see before you a flat, volumetric image of what appears to be a rather lush island in the middle of calm blue waters. Girvon, the bronze-armored Sanghili, he begins to speak loud enough for everyone on the lich to hear him in Sanghili. And 1 minute. And Alf and Hunter and Kevin and Mike, as the elite starts to speak the language you're not familiar with, your helmets all compensate and translate his speech in text on your heads-up displays. And as he begins to give a briefing, he says, "When the fleet of Retribution exited the portal, it detected 62 enemy vessels situated in orbit above the Ark, but the obstinate broodmare was not among them. However, one of our CCS-class battlecruisers used its hyperscanners to examine the Ark's surface. When it did, it found the obstinate broodmare parked on the surface of the Ark. However, just as it was found, the broodmare's signature disappeared. It was registered roughly in the center of this island," and he points to the image being displayed by the hologram, "amid one of the Ark's oceans."
The broodmare's signature disappeared because, as you can see here, the area of this island highlighted in grey is hidden beneath camouflage canopies. We do not know where within that area the broodmare is precisely, and we can only guess that there are at least 3 to 4 concealment spires hiding the area from orbital scans. We can only assume that Truth's fleet wasn't expecting us to arrive when we did, and that the enemy on this island scrambled to activate the spires. Apparently, they fear orbital bombardment of the broodmare and are hoping to go unnoticed. Once the seafarer's spyglass enters the threshold of the concealment spires, we will be able to find where each of them are, as well as come up with a plan. After he says this, a few minutes pass of continued flying, and you all notice at one point you feel a shudder go through the vessel, and where before there was only the sort of mid-pitched hum of the vessel's engines, now there's also a muted whooshing sound coming from all directions, and you can hear it if you concentrate, but it quickly becomes just background noise.
Atmospheric entry.
Yes.
Yes.
A few minutes later, after this, you feel the craft shake violently. It's so bad that Zapata, you have to brace your shield on the floor to keep from toppling over. And Mike, you feel nauseous.
Oh wow, the 10th time this month. Yay.
A bunch of the grunts fall over onto their backs and faces, and the elites have to grab or lean on a wall when this happens. But those of you who spent a lot of time on Covenant ships know that means that you just went inside the threshold of the concealment spires. As this happens, the grunt in ranger armor waddles out from one end of the room, where you assume the cockpit is, and reports, "The Lich will make a sweep clockwise around the concealed area to see where the spires are." You all feel very awkward, as no one's saying a word, none of the crew are saying a word, and they're all just staying still, waiting for more information.
This is highly unpleasant.
Where's the anti-air fire?
You don't know.
They likely had no time to set up a battery and appropriate sensors, especially for a vehicle that moves this fast.
Especially for a vehicle with active camouflage, as this one has.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter does not like the quiet. He's waiting for something to hit the Lich.
Mike is just sitting down leaning against the wall.
10 minutes later, the image changes. Now, instead of the grey highlighted area, you see 3 indicators. One apparently atop each peak of these mountain ranges.
Please tell me we're not gonna have to go there.
We're gonna have to go there.
We're gonna have to blow some shit up.
Great.
Kaboom.
How's this
Fucking hate
image?
cold.
Sorry?
Fucking hate the cold.
Well, I know what cold is like.
Hatred is not good for you. Let it go.
Oh god, I'm not gonna make that reference. Archo got it.
When this image comes up, Girvon, the Sangheili giving the briefing apparently, he looks at Zibias, the grunt, and says to him, "I assume we are not seeing the broodmare on this image because it is being hidden by one of the spires." And the grunt reports, "Yeah." The elite then... He thinks to himself for a minute and sort of strokes his lower pair of mandibles with a thumb and finger, and then says, "Right then, I believe our course of action is clear. We do not know which of the spires is hiding the broodmare. If we reveal ourselves too early, the broodmare may lift off and flee, and if the spire concealing it isn't deactivated, it will be able to remain hidden from the fleet until the moment it activates its slip space drive. I propose then that we split our forces into 3 and simultaneously assault each spire before they can know we are here, nor signal our presence. We will then deactivate or destroy each spire at the exact same time before the broodmare can be ready for liftoff. This lich can then retrieve all teams, and we may converge on the broodmare, hopefully before it has a chance to get off the ground. This lich does have the firepower to destroy one spire outright, so I believe it should wait in hiding until the moment both ground teams are ready to dispose of the other 2. And Giovon looks at you, Hunter.
Acknowledged.
Well, Arsham actually has a different opinion. He thinks, why do we not, rather than searching for the ship, instead search for personnel? Then we can have the Lich destroy one of the towers. As the panicked personnel rush back to their ship and ready it for takeoff, it is the perfect opportunity for some, or perhaps even all of us, to infiltrate. We can simply capture our target once the ship is underway and they believe they are safe, and take a small craft whilst broadcasting our position for a later meetup.
One problem with that. How many humans, Spartans, and U's are on that ship?
There shouldn't be a prelate that, as I understand it, there were none attached to Truth's fleet that Arsharon can recall, though he supposes it is not beyond the realm of possibility. Spartans, there would be no demons among a prophet's forces, but there could be agents of the Inflictor.
Kevin just sighs and says, he was saying we'd be completely cut off from any kind of reinforcement.
The Sangiri Giravon looks at you, Arsharam, acknowledging you for the first time since you boarded this lich, and comments, additionally, even if the lich destroyed one of the concealment spires, there is no way to know which spire is hiding the broodmare. If we destroy the wrong one, it could lift off and be gone from this place.
Before we get a chance to jump aboard, kill the crew, take the hostage, and take the ship back to the fleet.
Indeed, brother.
So, the simplest plan is for the 2 ground teams to hit the towers, and when we're ready, signal the Lich to destroy the 3rd. That way, when they all fall, the broodmare should show up like a pretty red bulbul on a holiday tree of the humans.
Well,
Alteration, I would hold the Lich in reserve and split our teams further to take all 3 out, then call in the Lich in order to take on the enemy vessel as it attempts to flee. A surprise attack should be enough to cripple its engines.
well, it's going to be between the 2 and the east. That's where it is. It's between the 2 and the east.
That does provide the densest cover.
Ah, yes. Giravon sort of looks at your team, Hunter, all the members of it, and says, but are we sending 2 teams to hit 2 towers and waiting for the Lich to be able to strike a 3rd at the same time?
I believe that the multiple attack teams on multiple spires simultaneously is the most tactically sound. I agree with our engineer friend.
Prelate.
I point to Mike when I say engineer.
Ah.
And considering the way it is, I think that the 2 teams should be split between the north and the southern ones on the east side, and the west should be taken out by the Lich because they can get to us faster. Because I'm pretty sure that the location, and gonna point up at the hologram, like right at the image where it seems to be in the middle of the tan, where there's that one tile that has the brown and the green. If I were a betting man, it's gonna be within a small area around that deformity in the terrain.
If I were trying to hide a craft within that zone, I would do so at the confluence of the rivers. You can see greenery where the tributaries merge. The vegetation would provide excellent cover against approaching aircraft, which is no doubt what they're expecting.
It would, but the orientation of the spires is too far. It's too far.
If you check the first map, it falls well within the shroud zone.
Keeping in mind that you've all been told that the obstinate broodmare is currently under active camo, so it wouldn't necessarily have to be in any given location in order to be completely hidden.
I just had another idea. Once we're at the towers, and to take them down, we could ping the towers. The broodmare should be hooked up to the towers to be able to check if they're active or not. That should give us a rough location of where it is, even if it is cloaked. And so after the towers fall, we would head right to that location and take the ship.
Do any of us have the technical expertise to do such a thing?
Rika will point at Mike and say he might.
Kevin
only.
You have no way of knowing, Mike, if you do.
Wait, just a second. So basically, it's a signal that's being broadcast back and forth.
That's my thinking, that if the broodmare is just waiting and hiding, it would have some way of communicating with each tower. So we'd have to hit them hard yet quiet enough so no one raises any alarms.
Okay, so
and then go from there.
So, real quick question, just because I need to. This is important. Is the broodmare controlling the towers, or is the towers just there irregardless? Because
the towers are just there.
Okay, then pinging them isn't going to make much of a difference. Pinging the towers isn't going to do a thing, because the towers aren't reliant on the broodmare for anything. So pinging the broodmare to the towers isn't going to do anything.
Thank you. It was just an idea. I just wanted to have an input on some of the planning, as I'm going to be a part of the team attacking one of the 3 towers. I just wanted to
Archo will say again, under these circumstances, with the broodmare's exact location unknown, he still feels it would be best to hold the Lich in reserve rather than showing our hand attacking the towers. That way we can bring it in on top of the broodmare with the element of surprise and hopefully deal enough damage to keep it grounded.
Archo, real quick, just a basic principle of like current and things like that, as well as resistance. Would it be a thing? Oh god, how am I even going to phrase this? So the thing's blinking in the entire area in active camo. Now would the overlapping camo fields cause a difference in how much strength is being focused in one general area?
You're not actually. You wouldn't quite know this, Mike, but out of character. The concealment spires don't project active camo over an area. They project extremely powerful energy shields, which happen to block radar and radio scans from ships.
Okay, so basically it's a shield over a shield. Okay.
And at least, as far as you're aware, anywhere from 1 to all 3 towers could simultaneously be projecting an active camo field onto the broodmare, wherever it is in this area.
But what couldn't be done. Now I'm saying couldn't because I'm thinking it might be able to be done. Look for, because the effect that it casts is going to be centralized in the area that's drawing on the most power, which would be the broodmare.
You don't know. Although you could
In
ask.
order for that to work, we would need to know. So, what he's speaking of is triangulating the position of the broodmare by saying each of them is projecting at maximum intensity in this direction. But that still requires that we take all three. So, it's rather a moot point.
Not really, because basically, if you take two, if we have the two teams go, it's going to point us directly towards the broodmare by two intersecting lines.
Not particularly, no, actually.
I'm
So
an old sonar tech thing, so.
As to just lay out the
With
facts.
two lines, you can project a vector, but I don't think you can localize it to a point.
The thing is that my Bluetooth speaker decided to interrupt me there. Never mind. The thing is, all three of these towers are projecting an overlapping bubble.
Yeah, that's basically what I was looking for, because what I was thinking is, okay, would it be, would the broodmare be siphoning power? If it's siphoning power, then you can put on, a line of direction, kind of like a sound wave. But if it's not, if it's just a general blanket, then it's not going to do that.
You could try asking.
Okay. So, explain to me how this works, because what I'm thinking is, if these things pretty much lay out an area for power to be drawn from, if the broodmare is in the area, then we're going to get a line, a clear signal to the direction from each tower that the broodmare is, and then all we need is two separate lines, and from that we can X marks the spot.
Girvon, the elite, he blinks at you and squints, apparently trying to parse the exact meaning of your words, and he explains, each concealment spire is self-sufficient and requires no power draw from external sources. Each is projecting an energy shield which blocks scans from orbit, and in addition, at least one of the towers is concealing the broodmare with active camouflage wherever it is within the shield.
And you see, that's what I'm actually asking about. Does the broodmare draw power from the overlapping blanket?
The Girvon shakes his head. No.
Okay.
So sounds like the plan is take two towers and see what we can do about the third without raising too much of a fuss. Go to the broodmare, take out its crew, take the prisoner, win the day.
Kevin,
The thing about that is, in the time between when we take the first two towers and when we take down the third, our worst case scenario is the broodmare is under the third, in which case they have that time to power up engines and run for it.
Keeping in mind, the ship doesn't necessarily... The broodmare, wherever it is, doesn't necessarily have to be near either any three of the towers. It could actually be up to 2 kilometers above any of the towers to be concealed. Those of you who have played Halo Reach would know that's what happened with the Long Night of Solace. You've been told that the last it was seen, the broodmare, it was parked on the ground. I say parked, but landed.
Parked air quotes.
The biggest issue is you don't know which tower, which spire, or even if more than one of them is currently concealing it. So if you don't, the big issue being, if you don't take out all three, or if you guess incorrectly, the ship could just up sticks and leave completely invisible until the moment it opens a slip space portal.
Well, the big question now is who goes with who.
We could skip the process entirely. Rather than relying on SIGINT, we rely on personnel intelligence. If we can get a high-ranking crew member from one of the support crew for the towers, we might be able to extract the location via interrogation.
Do you
Kevin-
really think any of the brutes will talk? And the grunts will spill anything if we don't kill them.
Kevin shakes his head and says, these are the most fanatical of the Covenant. They will not speak a word.
Well,
If I might interject, our tall friend here, I point to Ashram, I notice he speaks a lot like a prophet. We could interject and use him as an interrogation tool. Have him say that he is an instrument of the gods. That he has
Ashram
to
shakes
speak
his
to
head.
him.
yeah,
It is unlikely to work, unfortunately. Truth's dogma has diverged radically from the true path, whether that is the mainstream held by the Covenant or even the personal beliefs of high-ranking members. Though
So-
I could perhaps masquerade as reinforcements to one of the outposts and attempt to gather information that way.
This is true.
So,
Either way,
all
I
else
still believe
fails.
you could work as an interrogation tool, considering I doubt something as dumb as a brute who has seen you before.
Okay, so for the sake of time, we'll boil it down to it's mainly right now. You can enact any sort of plan once you're on the ground, but right now it's an issue of force deployment. Do the two combat teams each go to a tower, and does the Lich wait to then destroy the third tower once the other two have been dealt with? Or does the Lich... Because those of you who aren't human would know that the Lich can operate perfectly fine with only 2 crew members, and given the size of Combat Team 2, you realize there's like 20 people on this Lich who are only here just in case or to be held in reserve. So the two options are Combat Teams 1 and 2 each go to a tower, and the Lich destroys the third tower once the first 2 are dealt with, or the same thing, except the Lich deploys all of its troops at the third tower and uses those to destroy it or disable it.
Option 1.
I would vote 2.
Zapata votes 1.
Because Arsharam's idea is, it would strike you all as valid. You may want to hold the Lich in reserve and not tip your hand that you have that just yet.
Admittedly, this is not necessarily my favorite strategy, but thinking in character, Arsham is an assassin. He favors the overwhelming approach of bringing in your firepower fast and laying into them. So of course he would want to hold the Lich as a hidden blade.
I agree
Except
with the
for one particular problem. How would we all have gotten onto the ground?
The Lich is active camoed, so
No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, how did a bunch of random elites, grunts, hunters, and then Spartans and an ODST and a random engineer suddenly pop up on the Ark just where all their stuff is? They're going to realize that they got there somehow and probably put two together that we have some sort of ship that brought us.
for all they know, it could be a phantom or a spirit. They might not know it's a Lich, because phantoms
Equally,
can't have camo
this
drives.
is why we have stacked our team with super soldiers, hunters, and other veterans. Speed will serve us in this, as it does mostly in all things. Arsharam and the Spartans are all independent operators who are used to accomplishing objectives in the minimum possible time. If they move fast enough, I give decent chances that the Lich will come in completely undetected.
All right, let's do it.
I'm with Osteron. Let's hold the Lich back, and all available ground units hit the towers. And so when everything drops, we're good with a backup plan.
Okay, we have
Makes
2 votes
sense.
for option 1, 2 votes for option 2. Alf, Slacker, and Strider, what do you vote?
Quick question.
Keep the Lich in reserve. Have the ground teams deal with the towers.
Yeah,
They
I
might
think
not.
that'd be a good idea. I'm going to change mine to 2.
They won't think it's a Lich. They'll probably think, like Archo said, they could think it's a phantom or a spirit or something along those lines.
Quick question.
They'll know they'll have transport, but they won't know what type.
Could the Lich take out the engines of the ship?
The humans among you wouldn't know. The non-humans among you, a Lich has a focus beam roughly as powerful as the excavation beam of a Scarab tank. And given that the Broodmare is an RCS class cruiser,
Which is noticeably obsolete.
yes, it is. In normal circumstances, the Lich could take out at least one engine before it had a chance to spin up its drives and lift off, but you also remember that the Fleet Master mentioned that this particular RCS class cruiser was outfitted with bizarrely strong energy shields. So, assuming that its shields aren't activated and its engines are completely cold, which you would think would be unlikely, the Lich might be able to do some damage, perhaps? You're not quite certain.
Well, let's just, let's go with option 2. And, yeah.
Pray to our ancestors that we see the end of this day.
Option 2 is probably the best tactical option at this point. Because if all else fails, we could actually ram the Lich into the ship and potentially do some damage.
Keeping in mind the Lich is 100 meters long and an RCS class cruiser is 2,000 meters long.
It just
He didn't say
Even
he
so-
didn't say a lot of damage. He said some damage.
Yeah, we merely need to keep it in place long enough to either board or otherwise inconvenience it.
It really just needs to take out the engines.
So we're going with option 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
All available ground units hit all the towers, and then go from there.
All right then.
Hunter will add, and if and when we do get aboard the ship, I have something in my back pocket that might help.
So Girvon sort of nods to himself, and he gives you a look, Arsharam, as that you know to be mild respect, acknowledgement, because he's essentially acknowledging that you had a good idea. And he then says to your team, Hunter, which tower would you go for? More to the point, which tower should you be deployed at? North, west, or south?
Hunter is going to look at the projection. Doesn't really matter, considering all of them are probably going to be very well fortified with brutes protecting them.
Kevin looks at the image and mutters, wouldn't the tallest one be the most valuable?
Though the non-humans among you realize concealment spires don't really come in different sizes. Any of them could do the job just as well as any other.
No, I mean, like, the one on the tallest mountain should be the most valuable because you can get a clear overview of the rest.
In that case, the non-humans among you would know that because all 3 spires are being used to project the same bubble across this roughly 70-kilometer area, then not really. No, actually.
Let's go to the north.
I would also vote north simply because if we deploy there, the other 2 are roughly equidistant.
True.
So in that
Good
case, we
idea.
could deploy our screening elements, our reserves, on top of the tower, and then dispatch our 2 fire teams that can move fast to the other 2, and leave them maybe with 1 or 2 of us each to make certain of capture.
All right then. To the North Tower you go.
Okay.
20 minutes pass. Girvon ushers Combat Team 1 toward the aft of the ship. And when you get there, the Lich, I should say, there's a circular indent in the floor. And those of you who aren't Mike would know this to be the hole through which the gravity lift is projected. And Girvon says, "We will deploy you first, unless you want to wait."
I think my team's waited.
Oh, I'm ready to go. Let's get the fuck on with it.
And as Bruce says that, he just cocks his assault rifle.
Forcing Helios.
Girvon sort of grunts, shrugs, and heads back to the interior middle part of the Lich. You're all waiting by this circular hatch. You feel the vertigo in your chest shift slightly as you feel the vessel slow down. And the hatch sort of... What's the word for the camera lens? The
Shutters open?
Yes.
Eyelids open?
Yes, eyelids open. And from the ceiling of the aft part of the Lich projects this green energy. And those of you who are not human, you easily enough, you just step into the energy field and you are slowly lifted downward.
Generally, Ashram would just jump out of the craft and trust his gravity belt, but it's a nice novelty.
Oh, well, this is like the, not even 100th dumbest thing I've done the past couple of weeks. I just step out on it to the open air.
All right. As you all deploy through this gravity lift, you see this environment. Snowy foothills.
Are you mocking me?
What?
Are you mocking the way that I've been snowed in for the last 2 days?
Not at all.
I select.
That was your first thought, boss. Oh, pretty. Oh, wow, it's impressive that this large piece of technology can maintain such habitat. It's just fucking fun of me, you dick. That's your first thought.
I selected age 2 months ago, if that helps.
Nice.
In any case, you're all situated on the foothills of next door mountain. Roughly 900 meters to your left is this slow-moving 50-meter wide river that coils around the next bend of this mountain range, and on your right is a mountain. Yes.
Funnily enough.
Actually, all of your heads-up displays, because you all have them, and you are linked into the battle net, unless you're Kevin, you all see an indicator on the edge of your vision, and as you all turn your heads, you see it pointing roughly 2 kilometers to your north by northwest. And you see a highlighted path indicating the fastest possible route there.
Hunter raises his arm, has his hand up, motions forward, and starts following the highlighted path, because that's most likely where the target is.
I'm gonna walk through the path that these people are trenching through the snow.
Oh, wait. As we're
You should
going,
probably be walking in my path then, since of how
as
huge I am.
Yeah, Hunter takes 2 steps, he stops, he points to Zapata. You, big guy. Tip of the spear.
Yes.
If I might make an alternate arrangement, wouldn't it be better for the Spartans to move in first, since you have the best stealth scores? Then you can bring in Arshram and Zapata if and when you need somebody destroyed quickly.
Kevin says, wouldn't matter, the snow would disperse anyways.
I'm following the massive bulldozer.
Okay, wrecking ball it is. Let's go.
Hunter has an order for this. Going to be Zapata, Rocco, himself, Alf, Kevin, Mike, and Ashram playing rear guard.
All right then.
That's the parade order, folks. Here we go.
Rico's very happy that his suit is temperature controlled to some degree.
Kevin just says, it reminds me of Basic.
It's colder than a witch's titty out here.
None of the non-humans in your group know what that means.
Nor do I. Because I'm probably 6 fucking teen.
Pardon.
As you're making your way perpendicular to the mountaintop, about 800 meters to your right, across these snowy foothills, the plants around here are very, very weird, what few of them you see. These trees, if you can call them that, they're roughly in the shape of umbrellas without the nylon film, and they look almost like rock, but they also have these glowing purple vein-like things throughout their structures. A lot of the smaller shrubs are just plain bizarre. None of you have ever seen plant life like this anywhere at all.
Of course we haven't. This is the Ark. Everything here is touched by the divine.
All Zapatek is thinking is, can I eat the trees?
As we're walking, Hunter picks up a small ball of snow, kind of like tosses it. He's never seen the snow before.
Yes, you haven't. It is weird.
He's wondering why suddenly there's water on his hand.
You would have received a fairly good education.
I'm making jokes. It's funny because I was kidnapped as a child.
No, you were
No,
volunteered.
Spartan 3s weren't kidnapped. They were asked, hey, do you want to go on suicide missions until you die, but take covey bastards with you?
Yes.
Mine would have been kidnapped.
Yeah, Alf would have been kidnapped.
Look, when I
I'm
first
just
learned about
walking
Spartans,
and
all I
humming
learned,
and-
child soldiers.
I'm just walking and humming and being glad that I'm not frozen.
You are being frozen.
No, I was frozen. There is a difference.
No. You're in a cold environment, you are slowly freezing.
Yes, I know, but I'm not being put into cryogenic stasis.
You do feel a chill up your spine, Mike, as this reminds you far too much of the cryopod.
Are you kidding me? I'm freezing my fucking balls off, but let's go.
In any case, about 25 minutes of walking passes. The path highlighted in all of your HUDs, it winds around the crest of a particular incline, and then it veers rightward, just all of a sudden. And it's another 5 minutes before you realize where it's taking you, and you notice you're climbing slowly up toward the mountain top, but it hardly looks like the expedient path. But as you get nearer, you see something that looks a bit like a crevice. It's almost a cave without a ceiling, as two massive spires of pitch black rock are on either side of you if you choose to follow the path and cut through this canyon. Do you?
I mean, in this case, that would be a question for Mike, Zapata, and Kevin.
Zapato would just look back at them and say, "We go."
You said, Archo, you said this could basically be a shortcut, correct?
The path, you surmise, is taking you the fastest possible route to the spire.
Yeah, no time for sidetracks.
Do you want to try detaching people to flank? Attack on two fronts?
Turns to Alf, and now taking that into consideration, tilts his head towards this possible flanking route. Turns to Asharam and says, "Go with him and take Mike with you. And before you go, hands him one of his frag grenades, just in case."
You hand who a frag grenade?
Asharam,
Oh.
just in case.
I will endeavor to bring it back in mint condition.
The point is... Okay.
Yeah.
Zapata just sees him do that and just says, "Give up."
Yeah, I think it's better if I do. Thanks, big guy. Just pats him on the shield.
In that case, Mike, would you like to be carried by Asheron, since it will help us move faster, since you are the limiting factor on our speed? Or you could be carried by Alpha, I guess.
You can see on Mike's face he's almost offended, but then all of a sudden he just looks around, like makes a side gesture with his head. All right, let's go.
Well, then in that case, in the absence of specifics, I think Arsham can carry him, since his gravity belt lets him bound along, even if it wouldn't be proper gliding.
All right, let's go, big guy.
All right then, Mike. Arsharam, you sort of just pick Mike up by the back of his BDU.
Hi, Billy Mays here for Pocket Engineer.
The pocket engineer.
This is the
May
best
he
decision.
rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Billy Mays. Rest in peace, everyone who we've lost through the centuries. This was the best fucking decision we could have made, bringing Boss.
All right. Alf, Al-Sharam, and Mike, you all make your way off to the left of the path indicated to you. You climb up a few rocks, and eventually you have before you a steep slope, but a smooth one nonetheless, up the side of this mountain, roughly parallel to where the path is indicating you walk. While Hunter, Zapata, and Reiko, you all make your way into the crevice.
Don't forget Kevin.
And Kevin, yes. Sorry.
Kevin just says, "This is fucking basic."
Yes.
Basic works.
He means basic as in basic training.
The basics are for battle.
He thinks this is... Hunter took it as in, like, it's a basic strategy. He does not... He's not a fucking Marine!
In any case...
Also, which one of us is in charge of the split off?
I put Alf in charge of the split off.
Oh, sure.
Steel sharpens steel, King!
Still in radio contact with one another and still able to keep rough track of where the other group is, one Alf, Mike, and Arsharam making their way up the side of the mountain, roughly parallel to the canyon. Those of you who are in the canyon, your vision quickly worsens. You could have sworn it wasn't snowing a minute ago, but it starts to snow in your crevice. Alf, Arsharam, and Mike, nothing changes. You make your way through this winding canyon-like path, roughly 20 meters wide at its largest, 15 meters wide at its narrowest. This crevice is... The ground is roughly level. There's not much rocky outcroppings or roughness to the terrain. It's as though you're all walking across the snow from earlier.
Is there any obvious evidence that it has been paved or otherwise manipulated recently? So lots of people walking through to trample a path or something.
Yes, actually. You You can surmise that the snow... It's been snowing for a while in this canyon. None of you are sure how this works. But as you make your way further in, you begin to see an environment that looks a bit like this. And the further in you go, you begin to notice footprints in the snow.
Okay, so then Mike has a choice to make. You can either come with Arsham, whose instinct would be to go even higher. He has an anti-gravity belt, and try and slog up to the top and stay relatively safe. Or you can stick to Alf, who is a frontline bruiser, and run the risk of being caught.
I got a better idea. How about you just tap me when it's time for me to get off, and I'll provide long-range support.
Mike does have a concussion rifle.
This is true, so I guess you'll be coming with me up to the top so you can give us pseudo-artillery.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so Arshram will try and take Mike and hop up the sides of those canyon ridge using his anti-gravity belt to the fullest in an attempt to find, or if he can't find, punch into the snow a small niche where Mike can stand and overlook the depression.
This is all assuming that the two teams are constantly communicating and keeping each other appraised of what they're seeing. But
The snow is cold.
Get over it. We had it all the time.
I'd
back
expect
on
Alf
human
to keep
planets.
Hunter informed either way, but if you want Arshram to give him reports regularly.
We'll just say that you have been keeping relative track of each other the whole time for the sake of expedience. As Group 1 in the crevice are making their way forward, and Alf, as you are, left to catch up, while Arsharam and Mike make their way further and further up the ridge, you eventually come upon movement up ahead. It's hard to see at first, but as Reiko, Hunter, Kevin, and Zapata move forward through this bizarrely thick fog, you see... Is it 8? 8 figures. And by the time you get close enough, you realize 6 grunts, 2 jackals.
Immediately, Hunter, over like a radio with the people with him, just says, "Find cover," and just says to Zapata, "Make yourself look like a rock."
Zapata just looks at him, tilts his head, thinks, "Oh, I think I know what he means," and just.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
You cut out.
It's funny how you talk to him like he's Frankenstein. Fire bad.
Fire very bad.
Zapata red rock. Zapata boulder.
Zapata smash?
Zapata
very much
smash.
so going to
We get in a
smash.
fight. Hunter just points Zapata. Zapata, smash.
Puny prophet.
In any case, you in the group in the crevice, you see this pod of 6 grunts and 2 jackals making their way toward you. You surmise that they're running a patrol. What do you do?
I have a quick question. Since Zapata would have evacuated most of his armor so it could look like a rock, does that mean I could have my worms, like me myself, be like in the snow underneath them?
Is the snow thick enough for that?
Are you setting up an ambush?
No, it's not thick enough for that, actually.
Aww.
I was gonna set up an ambush on him.
You don't have much time to prepare, really. By the time you get close enough to make out what you're seeing, it's like this group of grunts and jackals are like 10 meters away. And as they begin to get closer, this is where we'll take a 15-minute break.
I need to take care of my plate.
I gotta
Hey.
piss.
This would be a good time for me to go get the kittens into